approach where you find the site, you have a vision for it, and you're trying to create what you believe the reality for that site is based on land use and zoning. Because zoning is very important. Zoning implements land use. So unless you're in Houston, where they have no comprehensive plan, and you can have a gas station next to a stable, next to townhouses, because there's no rhyme or reason in Houston to their land use. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. I have counsel to approve that. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, most of the jurisdictions have a comprehensive plan that's reviewed on every, what's the cycle, Mike? Every 3 years? Five-year cycle. And then you have zoning that implements land use. So, the strategic marketing approach, again, is better defines the consumer profile. You identify underserved target buyer segments, target buyer segment being an entry-level buyer, a first-time buyer, second-time buyer, maybe an executive move-up, or maybe someone that's only looking for an active adult. Their product preferences, what do they want? Do they want singles? Do they want towns? Do they want villas? Do they want first-floor masters? And what's their willingness to pay? So, very important, you have stages of life, and during stages of life, people have different wants and needs. The entry-level buyer wants a roof over their head, but they can only pay so much because of their income. So there's a willingness to pay, but they can only pay what they can afford, versus someone who the kids have moved out, and you're an empty nester, and you need a first-floor master because your knees don't work as well anymore. My knees don't work very well. So you pursue land, you develop products suitable for target segments. You base your feasibility of sites on the depth of the consumer demand. So you're comparing the target buyer to the supply. So during the strategic market research, and we'll get into the various ways to do an SMA, you have this analysis. You've got the supply side provided to you by Hanley Wood, by Metro Study, by MRIS, by all these resources, but you need the demand side. How many people are really looking to buy $1 million house in Chantilly? Or how many people are really looking to move down and get out of their $700,000 house in Chantilly down to a first-floor master that they're only willing to pay $500,000 for? What's their willingness to pay? So it's understanding the over and under supply. So there's a lot that goes into this part of the strategic marketing approach. And you price your product to the market. Based on this market research, you'll find out what is the consumer's willingness to pay. What will they pay for that first-floor master? What will they pay for that second-time move-up townhouse on Route 50 just south of South Riding, project called Eastgate? Very successful project. Because the builder understood what the market was going to pay for the product at that location. And then you draw highly qualified traffic to the site with target marketing. If you do this, you'll get pricing power where you'll be able to start your prices at a price point and move them up. You'll have lower risk because you would have understood and strategically understood who your market is. You'll have higher velocity because you know who the buyer is coming in. You know that there are these buyers that want the product. And you have a competitive advantage against the other builders in the submarket because you've now priced your product, you have the right product, and you know that it will be accepted. So it's fact-based, it's consumer-driven. And you do these strategic market analysis, usually you update it every 2 or 3 years. You do it by geography, you do it by house type, you understand pricing, square footage, and buyer profile and demographics. So there's a lot that goes into the strategic market analysis. Again, we talked about the data analysis piece, the supply and demand that's coming from your third party, Metro Study, Hanley Wood, MRIS, working with builders. Anapithian is an independent who does market research. Debbie Rosenstein is a woman who's been in the business for years, who does independent research again. And then, so you do the target market research piece is the consumer insight. You can either do it through focus groups, or you can do it through a survey. Usually you can mail out a survey, or you can do phone surveys, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But those two pieces will help tell you where to build, tell you what submarkets to build in, will tell you what products to offer, because the consumer research has told you what the consumer wants. Instead of going out and saying, we think the consumer wants 3,000 square feet, 4-story with a loft and an elevator, you're building the product that actually is the right product for the market. You understand who the target buyer segment is, who you're building for, and at what price, what they're willing to pay.
If I could add,
Go for it.
just something.
Yeah.
I think all the builders, regardless of how big, how small, how long they've been in business, who they have, would agree with the approach that Howard's outlined. How they actually do it will vary from builder to builder. Some builders work more off their gut. They're real familiar with a market. They just know that this is a great site, that it's going to sell, that this is the type of product that needs to go there. This is that price we could sell it for to the ultimate consumer. They just know that. They've been around forever, or they're very good at it. This is where the art part comes in. You know, you can have all this data, and one company might spend hundreds of man-hours analyzing one submarket. Another company, one guy, might just know and do it. Maybe born there, lived there, built there forever, so it doesn't take them much. The relative risk to each of them is pretty much the same, because you screw up anywhere and, man, it costs you a lot of money for messing up. So most of the builders would be, even if they have that gut feeling and they know it's right, they still want to back it all up with, confirm their gut feeling with all this data and this market research.
I will say that you don't have to do, so I was with Centex for a number of years, and we took a global view of the Washington, D.C. area, and we broke each county down, each submarket down, and so there are over 70 consumer groups. There's a company called Axiom that does market research for insurance companies, restaurants, car dealerships, banks, and so they're a resource that industries go to that break consumer groups down and help you do market research. So, you know, I talk about an entry-level buyer, a first-time buyer, a second time. You know, there are, within that, there are 5 or 6 different consumer groups within the entry-level buyer. There's 5 or 6 different consumer groups. There's a guy that wants to live on I-81 in Winchester and commute to Dulles, right? There's a reason why he wants to live out there. There's a guy and a family that want to live in Chantilly because they work in Tysons. You know, why did MVR next door at Discovery price their townhomes at $550, $600, something like that? Right. Why they price them at $500, $600? You go across the street, you can buy a resale in Chantilly Highlands for $600. The house is 30 years old, and maybe it's had some renovations, but why did they price it at that market? They did some research, some analysis said that's the top that they can build, that they believe that that's the highest price point. Westmore, big MVR project now under development out in Ashburn. I mean, it's 600 units, I think, the first phase. It's a mix of mostly towns. They might have looked at that site and said, you know, there's Brambleton, there's a resale in Ashburn Village. They looked at that site. They might have done a TMR just for that site to understand who is the buyer and can they push pricing? Are they going to, it's a lot of units, are they going to build the right product for that location? So you want to get at the norm. You want to build for 80% of the market. Let the other 20% go, but the target market research should at least help you quantify that 80% of the market. You bring as many facts to the table as possible, and you go from there. I'm just going to quickly, any questions about that? I know it's a lot of information real fast.
And just real quickly, on the market research, when you put a project together and you present it, we'll get into how it's presented to the company and how it's bought, your land development is going to swing a little bit. And your biggest exposure is going to be your top line, your sale prices. You can sell a house generally anywhere in Northern Virginia at a price. But if you're wrong early in the process and you buy it assuming that you're going to be selling here and you find out that you're $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 light when you're trying to actually sell homes, it's a big hurt because when you have that realization, it's very early in the project and you still have a lot of the project to get through. So it's, the market data is critical to be right, early on. When you start talking about how important it is, it drives that top
I
line.
think that's a really good point too, because we struggle as an industry, the builders struggle with guessing what they're going to be able to sell the house for. It's something that if you're in a market that has lots of similar homes all around it, you get a better idea. If you're in a market that what you're going to put there is nothing really the same, it's real hard to figure how much is someone willing to pay and do you have the right product. So for the product you're planning, will someone pay, like the example here, will they pay $600 for this townhome? When we know if you go 3 miles down Route 28, you can only get $400 for it. The same exact house. Will they pay $600 here? A good example is Crown Farm in Gaithersburg.
I thought we were talking about Maryland.
We weren't. Crown Farm in Chantilly.
All right, that's understood.
We moved it.
Good.
Well, when that first opened up, the developer was looking for builders. The developer had this vision that he could sell lots to builders. So this is the developer going through the whole process of getting zoning and approvals and putting the whole plan together, and then just selling finished lots to builders. The developer had the idea they could sell a 20-foot townhome lot for more than $250,000 for the lot. They were taking the risk. They spent a lot of money, and you know a little bit about that job,
A
right?
little bit.
Yeah. And a lot about it.
Yeah, I walked away from a big deposit.
Right.
Yeah,
An awful lot.
a lot of money.
And timing is everything. The developer put millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars into this, believing that they could sell a townhouse lot to a builder for a 20-foot townhouse lot, $280,000. Well, that's absurd. Now, we as a company, MI, as a builder, we looked at it and said, as well as many other builders, everyone was looking at it to see, if they can get in, because it's a good location, but how good? We looked at it and we said, we did all the things Howard said to do. We looked all around the area, what are other new homes selling for? What are 20-foot townhomes selling for? There weren't many in that area. What are resales selling for? And we looked at it and said, I don't know if it's worth that much money, because if we pay $280 for a lot, we know how much it costs to build the house, our marketing costs, and all the other costs. We'll have to sell the house for close to $700,000. Same house that we're building and selling for $350 near Manassas. But we did it, okay? And that's where I was talking about the art of it. There was nothing that was very direct line supporting that it would work. It was something that was coming. They said they're going to build the town center, they're going to have a bunch of restaurants, physical fitness play. It's going to be a great place to live right near 270. So we took a risk. And it's all about risk and reward. Everything we do is about risk and reward. We took a risk and gambled like the developer did, who was a good developer, which was also you have to consider, and it worked. But we sell the townhouses, 20-foot townhome that's the same house basically that will sell for $350 somewhere else. We sold them for $700,000. Did all this market analysis, and the market analysis, three different places you look at it. One says, yeah, that will work. One says, not sure. They kind of hedge. And one says, no, you'll only get 6 1/4. And then that's when you gotta that's when the order comes in and you gotta
Right,
make
so,
your decision.
right, so when you're, you have to have that vision, we talked about that, the first slide, you have a vision for a piece of property, and the developer had a vision for Crown Farm. That vision now is, it's not a new vision, Reston Town Center, Dulles Town Center, creating town centers, creating lifestyle, where you can, I hate using the three words, live, work, and play, because it gets overused, but that whole concept, and who is your buyer profile, and how many target buyers can you meet in this one location, or will you actually drive other buyers to the market? Just a hitchhike on that, we're now going to build, Michael Harris Homes, Streetscape Partners, we're going to build 128 condos in Crown Farm. That market is matured over the last now 4 or 5 years since it started development. The market in general has come back from its bottom in 07, 08. So we believe there's some pricing power, and now there is a Harris Teeter there. There's a Starbucks, there are tablecloth restaurants, there's an ABC store, and we believe that there's demand for a condo buyer at that location, which we think is sort of an age-directed product. We'll get a lot of people moving down, getting out of their larger homes in that submarket and buying condos at that location.
I just want to see if I could ask a question regarding the lot price, Jerry, that you mentioned. What drove that lot price as high as it was? Was that a combination of factors, amenities and development, raw land cost,
And
development
that's
costs?
a great question, because that same question could be asked about what drives the price of our homes. The same question it's exactly the same question, what drives the price of that lot? And you mentioned amenities, this, that, the other thing, and it's not that. It's not your cost at all. It's what will you be able to sell the home for? What's the price that you can sell the home for? It's called supply and demand. It's very basic. The demand comes from consumers. They know what the price is. They know the right price. Consumers are the smartest group of everyone. In the end, we all live by what they're willing to pay. It happens every time. So we could build up our costs, the developer could build up their cost and say it's going to cost me this much to put the roads in, this much to do all the infrastructure, the amenity center, the tennis courts. This is all my cost. I want to make a profit of this, so I got to sell it for this. It doesn't matter what they got to sell it for. It matters what a builder thinks they're going to be able to sell houses for. And the only way to know that is to pay attention to all these statistics. What would a buyer be willing to pay? And like Howard said earlier, you back into the land price. We get our sale price of the home, which we're guessing on to some degree, but the more data and the better feel you have, the more accurate your guess is going to be. But we get the price of the home, then like a developer, we'll get he'll say, what's the price of the lot? He's going to feel comfortable, I could get 280, because that's what the market will bear. And then minus all my costs.
Just for clarity, and when Jerry says what the market will bear, it is, there's the outsale of the home market, which is the consumer, the end user, but finished lots are driven by what builders are willing to pay, and that's driven by what builders believe their outsale prices will be and what their cost structure is internal to their company. So just like you get into, the commodity market on housing, lots can become a commodity, effectively going to the highest bidder, and that's driven by, outsale prices, like Jerry was saying, cost construction, but also, oftentimes pipeline in a company, in order to survive, in this market, you have to have a supply of lots out ahead of you, and that will often artificially drive the price of finished lots up. in a commodity situation.
So it's all supply and demand, and it's very basic. It's really not, it's like a commodity.